for being here. And thank my husband for waking me up. So I was like, no, and he was like, girl, you gotta get up. You can't, you got someplace to be. So I thank him for waking me up. And I'm very happy and blessed to be here today. So yay, let's get started. For those of you who do not know me, hi, I'm Amy Robinson. I am a designer, I am a teacher, I am a mom, I am a history nerd, yep. And I'm a sasshole. So that's going to come out in my talk. So when I first thought of this topic, which the theme is parallel, it was very interesting because did anyone get a chance to actually read it? Y'all didn't do your homework. Rude. Essentially, as you can see up here, they're talking about how we have parallels in our lives, kind of like railroad tracks, right? The two sides never meet. And so when I first thought of this topic, I started with the thing that I don't like, which is math. And because what's your least favorite subject and why is it math? So really, a little over 30 years, I have never used the quadratic equation. Probably never will. So I don't do the math. But anyway, I went to math. And I just had to find something, I told myself, that you all could relate to, that I could share with you all, something that we have in common, something that's funny enough. It doesn't scroll on my notes.
Interesting. Let's try to move your mouse to this screen, and then where'd it go?
This show machine.
There we go. There we go. Trackpad.
Oh God. And it's the opposite direction? Oh, you try to mess me up. Wrong direction. So funny enough, my first gut instinct was to talk about what does work and what I am going to talk about today. But I'm not used to trusting my gut because I have IBS. So, yeah. So to illustrate where I'm going with this, not the IBS, the theme of parallel, I figured that I would share what my corporate and in-house days would have been like in the spirit of what I would have sent in an email. That is the wrong direction. That is the right direction.
The laser is the bottom.
Hello, Mike is on his way down to your desk I can't see it on the screen, so to see if you're attending tomorrow's training. Thanks, Amy, with my super profesh signature. I would have also sent this. Hey, Queen, hey! My boss man is coming to ask what time you coming through to the training tomorrow. Yeah, bye. Again, super profesh, signature. Axe is such a funny little word here because for a lot of us, we know it as a stereotype. One specifically to make fun of folks who say axe instead of ask. That's darker shades of wheat. So this is a metathesis or transposition of letters or sounds in a word. This word actually is one of the oldest ways to say ask. Around for centuries and with roots in Old English, it actually comes from axion. And though it's essentially been phased out for the way we hear ask now, it still persists in some dialects like the American South and the Caribbean. In fact, the Canterbury Tales, written by none other than Geoffrey Chaucer, use axe as well as the first complete translation of the Bible. Told you I was a history nerd. Trying to pre-warn you. Any hoodle. What did you all notice about these two emails?
Code switching.
That tone switch, right? Tone switch, one that kind of, sort of, almost, maybe not sounds like me. And the other one does, more or less, sound like me. And for those of you who don't know me, they both may sound something alike in a way. And yes, that is called code switching. Who's heard of it? Okay, a few of you have not. Code switching in linguistics is actually the practice of alternating between a couple of languages or dialects within a conversation, and might I add, a surrounding environment, or one surrounding. It translates to examples like toning down one's regional accent or language to fit in, most commonly switching from African American English, yes it is a thing, or AAE, to American English when around a different race, or changing your name that highlights your ethnicity or religion to blend in. We saw this a lot in the 1930s Germany when people were fleeing the Nazis, coming to America, changing their name so they would not be recognized as Jewish. But now, the most important part, and also, might I add, the last one, would be changing your name for an interview in order to get a job. Back to the most important part. What does this have to do with parallel? Some of you may have already started connecting the dots of where I'm going with this. As I stated before, those emails sound very much like Amy. For those of you who are in this room with me, maybe the other one is kind of like, meh, not so much. Some would even say that not both of these sound completely contrasting, and one may sound more relaxed and fun, while the other one sounds professional. Oh, that word. One that has haunted me, and a lot of creatives over time, because what exactly does professional mean? Like drinking on the job, some no-nos here, not really professional. Not adhering to a dress code in a way that could interfere with your job safety. Notice I said that it interferes with your job. It interferes with your job. So if it's not interfering with your job, is it really in a dress code? Doesn't need to be. Just thinking out loud. Just thinking out loud. Being chronically late. I say that, and I know my husband's like, but you. Like, baby, do you look in the mirror? There are some things that run along a gray area. Oh, and if you ever microwave fish, you deserve to step in the puddle with your socks on. So there is a gray area that some may not always think about. For me, as a creative, an introverted one, me introverted, in a corporate and agency setting, I had two pieces of me that I felt could never intersect. There are two parallel lives that I felt that should never and could never intersect. The stigma has always been there, and in my case, based on my work experience, and whether that be interpersonal or interpersonal relationships, it showed that a certain language was deemed unprofessional. And therefore, unless I was around like-minded individuals, I could only stay within the professional version of Amy. She's boring now. But why? Why the stigma? It is not just linguistics. No. Most people tend to exist in some type of parallel space, often without even realizing it. Even now, I'm sure my students may be confused by my little bit different presentation style than I've been giving. But this tweaked version, some may not take this gal seriously, which is fine, because I'm not meant to be taken too seriously. Is it vastly different than how I usually teach and present? No. But that's because, as the theme challenges us to do, and literally for myself, out of a sheer act of resistance, which is how I get down, who gonna tell me no? Literally nobody. I have relinquished the effort of trying to keep two parallel lives and to intentionally live authentically as me. What's scary is that I thought I had to perpetuate all of this and keep the parallel going in order to be successful. Even now, at the beginning of this, I was having conversations about imposter syndrome and wondering if this is a space that I actually fit in. And for some of you here who know me and have known me for a time, This may be that this is how I've always been, how I've always presented myself. I've always seemed like I'm clearly, transparently my authentic self. And if you are one of those people, I thank you, because you have given me the space to allow myself to be authentically free from the get-go, so I appreciate that. But two, it could also be that I am at that fine wine age of, not gonna be able to do it. I can't. Because being so authentically true to yourself is so incredibly important. And at some point, I stopped and said, this doesn't serve me. This doesn't serve me to be too. It was exhausting. You'll sometimes find, and some of you can shake your head, if you're my students, you can do thumbs up. Please don't do that. Some of you may feel that you have to be on, right? And then you get home and you're like, God, I'm tired. Why am I tired? Were you on all day? Were you putting on that front and not being authentically yourself? Think about that. How can you blend the two so you're not on and you're just you? So at some point I said, I don't want to do that anymore. It's too exhausting. This should be important to you as well, to not play either side. Do you know how hard it is to turn down your energy when you have a lot of it? First of all, turning off subtitles on my face. See? Can't do it. And then to stifle this loud ass laugh, like, it's hard to do. But why stifle it? Because it's not professional? It is loud though. My laugh is loud. Right. My laugh is loud. Like, nah, son, it doesn't serve me to hide. It doesn't serve me to switch and keep two versions of myself. And it doesn't serve you either. So, some parallels we may think of. When I first landed my job at, and it was funny because as I was looking for parallels, I asked my husband, he was like, you landed your first job at Child Protective Services. I was a student, intern, a kid intern, over the summer. And it would have been highly unprofessional for me, a girl of 14 and a half, 15, to show up blasting the likes of Tupac. I mean, I did it, but it still would have, in my mom's car. That was the best part. But I wasn't going to listen to yacht rock like they did. And that's what they expected. When you work here, it's, gotta listen to Barry Manilow. And no, I don't have any pictures from when I was 15. Not doing that. Continuing to look down that list, my boss man, who I mentioned earlier in my email example, was covered in tattoos. Covered in tattoos. There were very few people in the office that saw him outside of work. In the workplace, very dapper. Nice tie, nice suit, dressed to the nines, always dressed completely, because we had to wear suits. We had to wear dresses, we had to wear skirts, we had to wear heels. No one in the office ever knew that he had tattoos, and in fact, I followed in his footsteps as well, because tattoos were so frowned upon in this corporate setting. For those of you who are wondering what that corporate setting is, it was the NFL. I know, shocking, but we weren't allowed to show them. Nor piercings either. So I hid most of my artwork from only a select few. And I actually worried about that as I moved into ASU. When I began teaching, first day, I looked for the dress code, couldn't really find it, asked for help with the dress code. And so I mimicked what I wore in the corporate setting. So a lot of button-ups, a lot of dresses, a lot of heels. And it was really interesting because at some point, again, the switch flipped. And I was like, why am I walking into this lecture hall, down all of these stairs, in these heels? Like, I don't want to do it anymore. And then I stopped. And no one said anything. And I was like, well, who's going to tell me no now? Nobody. But I felt that that was what I had to have in order to teach, in order to be taken seriously. In fact, that reflected in my work. When I gave my history lectures, they weren't like I dressed. I can dress pretty good. I can dress pretty good now. But it was very by the book, look at, it wasn't Ben Stein, okay, it wasn't Ben Stein, it wasn't that bad. But it was very by the book, and it was very, this is the information, have a great day. And then I was like, why am I doing this? I don't have to teach this information like this. I don't want to teach this information like this. It can be fun, which is when I started implementing the fun and useless fact for my students. And that was a way to bring history in a way that they could enjoy. They could bring it into their lives and remember it later when they're like me and their brain's like a goldfish and they randomly think of something that has nothing to do with the conversation that they're having, but it just pops in your head and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, did you know that? And then history just continues to share. Because if you don't learn from it, it repeats itself. Anyway, so that's how I started, just incorporating fun and my authentic self. Because Lord knows I was already mad that the class was at 8 a.m. And I was like, look, y'all ain't awake, I ain't awake either, but I'm trying to be awake. So it was a way to engage it, but it was my own authentic way of doing it. Do I still hate that it's at 8 a.m.? Yes. Is it at 9 a.m.? Do I still hate it? Yes. But we're working on that. We're working on that. And then looking at this list, continuing, right? Can people who are professional do these other things? I know that I was told when I really started getting into piercings, you're never gonna have a good job because you have piercings. I didn't know that was the qualifier. I didn't know your shirt's not tucked in, it's not you're not wearing a suit, they're not gonna take you seriously. But shouldn't my work speak for itself? Because usually with my clients, once I land the gig, I'm really nice and dressed, and oh, you look so cute, thanks, girl. By that next one, look, we in jammies together. You got your comfies on, where's your glass of wine? Like, and that's the relationship that should be built because the work is going to speak for itself. Continuing with that list, skipping to that last one. Dungeons and Dragons. Where are my D&D players in here? Raise your hands proud. It's been a thing forever. And I think kind of in the same vein, as an example of a parallel, it caught people off guard when Megan Thee Stallion started cosplaying and was really into culture of manga and cosplaying. But what really throws people for a loop is when they realize people like Joe Manganiello is a huge Dungeons and Dragons player, as is Dame Judi Dench. But the only reason she got started in Dungeons and Dragons was because she was introduced to it by her friend. No one saw that coming. That was not on your bingo card. Don't even pretend this was coming. But they're all proud players, living in their authentic selves, and what would we would say as surprising parallels. And based on how they present themselves to the world, that's why we're shocked. We're like, really? Really? This is dungeon? Okay. So when we think of these things, and oftentimes when we think of these parallels, the parallels you saw previously, and we think of them and what we should expect from that certain audience or that person, these are often stereotyped, outdated, unseasoned comments that only come at the expense of our authentic and creative self, especially if we try to lock them away and stifle them. So who and what, outside of our talent, perseverance, and a couple of good old swear words, could stop us, right? There's naturally inherent pros and cons to throwing some caution to the wind and living in what I like to call the flexibility of you. Your authentic, creative self will definitely scare and threaten people. It will not be palatable to everyone. Some, not all, of my very first clients may really like the more pressed version of me with the Zoom mute button on, trying not to scare them with my sailor mouth, and that's okay. My business and my teaching goals are mine. not someone else's interpretation or definition, what it should be. And I can see that more and more with each new group of designers that come into my class. And show me their appreciation for my crazy style of teaching, my Nikes and my momming, and my business clients who have become like family, and we just click. The differences of our experiences make our lives our own. That's the beauty in it. Today and every day, from here on out, I call on you to celebrate those diverse moments without having to say the two sides, parallels, should never meet. They can, at the intersection, and at an intersection that you create, not the parallel, and that's where we find the beautiful and authentic version of you.